Friday. I hope that you are all having an absolutely incredible week. We are having so much fun here in the live studio. I feel like I've made more videos this week than I probably have in a very long time. So thanks for hanging out, for joining me for all of these different broadcasts. I am learning a ton and having an absolute blast. We are gathered here today to talk all about live streaming stages, how to build up an amazing, eye-catching, hey, what are you guys doing kind of stage when you're at an event or on the go or, away from your home studio space. So definitely ask as many questions as you have. Drop the questions into the chat if you're watching on replay. Don't worry, we will circle back and answer those questions later. And you can grab all of the different links and the gear that we're talking about today in the description. So if you're the kind of person that has gear acquisition syndrome, if you have gas, you can grab all of those cool pieces of gear that we're talking about today in the description. But without further ado, I couldn't possibly answer all of the questions without the two coolest people that I know. Ana and Fuljens are here.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Yay.
And you know what, Katie, with that new setup that you have, of course you're streaming all the time.
I know.
Right. It's
I will
so much
say
fun.
the benefit of having a permanent studio space. So when I'm at home, my home office, my home studio space is just like a corner in my bedroom because we have only a couple of rooms in the house. It's not a huge space. And so it's great for working, but for live streaming, I have to move up, a bunch of things around. I do a whole bunch of crafts. So I got to move all the crafts off the table. I got to reposition my camera. So this is nice. I can just literally walk in, flick the lights on. I'm like, great. I look awesome. Let's go.
Let's
do this.
Absolutely.
Let's do this.
The best. The only thing we have to worry about is the hair looking good. That's it.
Oh, my hair is always crazy. So I cut it thinking that it would be easier to deal with, and it's still crazy. So
No, and it looks great. And I like your earrings. They're just nice and colorful.
exactly, right? Pops it. I'm like, you know what? Earrings solve everything in my mind. I'm like, it's great. So we have a pop of color with the earrings. I'm wearing my brand new, amazing pink hoodie. So shout out to Katie for suggesting pink. Fuljens is also rocking the pink. So we're team pink today. I love it.
And a splash of orange.
The splash of orange. The ray of sunshine in between the pink. I love it. Oh, man. So we have lots of people watching. Katie is here. Katie, thanks for the pink recommendation. I love it. We have Michael here. We have Johnny here. So definitely keep those questions coming in the chat. We will circle back and answer. But if you're just joining us and you're like, I don't know anything about Ecamm, or I stumbled across and this seems interesting, we are here. We are Team Ecamm. I am the director of marketing at Ecamm. Ana and Fuljens run ENN, which is our amazingly fun Ecamm network news every week on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern. So if you like what you see today, you can always hang out more with us. We are around and happy to always answer questions and bring the fun. But today we're talking all about people of video specifically, but as a larger topic, kind of how you go about setting up a live streaming stage, or how you can kind of create a cool live video setup when you're not in your usual space. And you two were awesome because I feel like we sort of threw you into it. You were like, hey, we got asked to do interviews with a bunch of the speakers at People of Video. And I was like, great, let's set up a live streaming stage.
It was great.
It was great. But I think, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and I learn something new every single time I'm there. So why don't we talk through a little bit about kind of the planning of that and thinking it through. So when Dan first brought the idea to you both and was like, okay, we want to interview speakers, what were sort of the first things that were going through your mind on okay, how do we do that? What gear do we need? What do we do to look our best? How do you approach thinking through projects like this?
Yeah, so for us, the first thing was the logistics. Okay, so who are the speakers? How do you want us to? What are we going to use? What's the platform that you're streaming into, so that we can, make sure that Ecamm and the platform speak, to each other nicely. So that was one of our first things that we thought about. Once that was said, that we knew that was a platform, then we started thinking about, organizing how the workflow of how the interview was going to be. And then after we had that we had an idea of how that was going to happen, then we started talking equipment. So we went into, okay, what lighting are we going to use for the cameras? What are we going to bring? What we need a spare? What is a spare going to look like? And because of what you just mentioned, we just got kind of thrown into it, so we didn't know if we had to actually have a mobile setup, an actual mobile setup, but we were going to be walking around with the equipment. So we were thinking about that as well. And then so we brought both options.
Right. We just brought like a little bit extra, right? Just to have some backup and some redundancies in place.
Yeah. I think that's the name of the game when you're not in your space. I mean, even when you're in your space, right? You're kind of always like, all right, do I have an extra microphone nearby if this one goes out, but definitely when you're out on the road, or you're not in a place where you can easily or quickly grab something.
Right.
You two are the best, because I feel like you are the only people who we talk to that don't start with gear. And I love that about you. You're like, all right, what's the plan? How do we build it out? How do we think through what the content is going to look like? And I think that is such an important first step, because that these days there's so many different places that you could go to, right? So has the event producer thought through where they want the stream, the content, the virtual experience to go? In this case, Dan had a really solid plan. He was using Uscreen. Shout out to our friends at Uscreen, and so he knew what the experience would look like for his attendees. So that in your minds, it was just about, okay, how can we match that up with what we know how to do and what what we have set up and built. So I think that's a huge first step, is really, if you're going to take on a project like this, working really carefully with the event producer, with whoever your point of contact is, to say like, okay, where do you plan on sending this out to? Is it going into a Facebook community? Is it going out to YouTube? Is it closed, or is it open to everyone? That's another thing that we kind of discovered when we were first working on this People of Video project was, is the event producer selling tickets to it? And so that was a challenge you guys had to work through on, how do we share content with the Ecamm fam and get, everyone along the way, but being respectful to the fact that there were people who had paid for tickets and wanted to have a different experience. So how did you kind of think through that aspect of it, of like what content was going to go where, and how you were going to approach splitting it out like that? I think was tricky. And you came on the other side.
Yeah, it definitely was. It all worked out because once you have a content planned, right, and you feel confident about the content that you're going to be producing, then you moved into, okay, you know what, you already have the plan, then let's work into the graphics. How is the graphic going to look like? What do we have to present? And then the equipment is going to be there. We know the equipment already, right? So we're like, okay, we got this. Now everything is planned, because why would it be like having a great setup, a beautiful setup, and the content is not there? I mean, so
right. And just to answer your question, Katie, so what we did is so we know that behind the scenes is behind a paywall, but we definitely wanted to have the Ecamm family have something, right, some type of experience, right? So for the 2 nights after we finished the wrap up, the POV, we actually did a wrap up in the community, right? So we did a special edition of ENN where we brought on basically everybody that was in attendance, right? Yeah. And that was so fun, right? Because it creates a sense of community. Not only that, but the people who were not there, they had a little bit of the FOMO, right?
And then we did the test. We did the test first before we got,
And then the next day, since now we know what we're doing, so the next morning we did a mic check test run in the Ecamm Live community, and we promoted the POV as well, and shared the link in the community if people wanted to, get behind the paywall and check it out. And then we told them that we'll be later that evening for another ENN wrap up as well. So that worked out very well. So it was such high engagement.
Yes, both were great because we just did that wrap up and the family came on, and that was something that wasn't necessarily kind of planned. It's something that happened.
It was organic.
As we went through. Yes, which is just really good.
Well, I think what's really cool about it is that because you were so confident in the plan and you knew the flow and you understood like where it was going out and you know, and who you were speaking to and when and what you needed to get out of the larger project, because it just looked so cool and because everyone was there, it was just easy then to be able to add those extra things on, because it's similar to what we were talking about earlier. Like once you're in the space and you have it and it's all built out, it's super easy to be like, all right, let's go live now. Let's go
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
so
Yes.
it's easier to do those kind of pop-ups. And I know everyone wants to get into the gear. So I would say probably one of the coolest things like that we've seen, and especially at this event, we saw it again, is that having kind of the branded handheld microphones, our Ecamm microphones, go a long way, because it feels like that news show. Like, and so people walking by were like,
Right.
what is that? Like it felt like you had like a news counter desk, you know, you look just like
Yes.
really professional. So it is funny that I feel like sometimes when we're in a home office space or an office studio space, you know, no one can see from the camera angle because the camera's up, but what the rest of my office looks like
Right.
still needs a lot of work. Newsflash. But you know, but when you're live in a physical event, everyone can see what's all around you. And so I think it's what's neat about thinking through these kinds of setups is that if you can get it to look great on camera, but also get it to look really eye-catching and cool to anyone that's in the space, then you do kind of facilitate a lot of those moments where people want to walk up and take selfies or be like, how are you doing?
Right,
that's so
right.
true.
Yeah, people kept walking up to the booth. The booth looked amazing. It was we were able to put it up so quickly after you explained to us, Katie, how to put it up.
Right. Find stuff that you can build quickly and that's super portable if you're on the go. Those are my 2 pro tips.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. That was great. People did the handheld mics. People just like you mentioned, it was like, okay, what are you guys doing? What is this? And they thought that we were like for the entire hotel. Like people will come asking us questions about the events at the hotel. So we're like, yeah, we're just for Ecamm live here. People video is a conference. Yeah. So the presentation is definitely key for when we're at live events, for sure.
Huge. And especially for all of you watching, if you're thinking about, you know, as the world gets quote unquote back to normal and we have more of these in-person events, all of these event producers are going to need some level of live video, virtual tickets to be able to, you know, help to cater to a wider audience who may not be able to attend their event, or people who are just not quite comfortable in coming out yet, or just to even be able to use in the marketing. So it's a huge opportunity if you can figure out the right way to be really strategic about it and thinking through delighting and making your event producer really excited, as well as just like everyone that was passing by was also really excited. So you guys were great because you were selling Ecamm to like random people in the hotel. We're like, wait a second, what is this? I absolutely, I love that vibe of it. I think sometimes we forget how cool like video equipment can be, like how cool video equipment can be to like people who are not in this space often. So there's not a lot of people that get to have like a cool microphone and fun like things behind them. So handing them a microphone like does make them feel really special. Absolutely.
For sure.
It does.
For sure. Yeah. And seeing themselves on the screen, because they get to see themselves on the screen. So they look at it and they see the graphics, you know, the lower third, and they see their names popping up and so they feel like they are in a real.
Right. And it just enhances the overall experience, right? Because like they see everything in person, they see the booth, they see the setup. And then when the speakers come behind the booth and they're on camera and they look down on the MacBook and they're like, oh, wait a minute.
Right.
Like, okay, can you guys explain this now?
Yeah, that was it. Yes.
Yeah, and they all say like they feel like they're on a professional broadcast. They feel like they're part of like a news show or something like that. They all say the same thing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it goes a long way. So what are the different elements that go into it? So obviously you had a laptop or a portable, some level of portable computer. So if you don't have a laptop, if you have, you know, a Mac Mini or something that you can bring along with you, and then what cameras and things were you using, and how are you structuring it and thinking about the space?
Right. So we went very portable, right? So we used the 16-inch MacBook Pro on Catalina, and we didn't have an additional monitor, you know, which was great because, you know, we had like limited space.
Yeah,
so
tiny
we have
countertop.
yeah, on the countertop, right?
Yeah.
So on the countertop, we had the MacBook Pro, and we had the Rodecaster Pro, and we also had the Stream Deck XL, right? And what we were using to connect everything was this USB-C port here. It's a 9-in-1 by VanMass. The link is in the description, right? It has Ethernet, HDMI, has multiple USB ports, right? It has SD card slot. So this was very, very handy. Like normally we use like a Cal digit, right? But you know, for sake of space, this worked very, very well in connecting the Cam Link and connecting the Rodecaster Pro and connecting the Stream Deck.
Yeah, and what I love about it is that it has an Ethernet port in it.
Just in case, yeah.
Just in case. So, like, we bring this when we do remote production or live production, when we go, we bring this all the time to get hardwired to it.
Yeah.
So it's really,
and it's an awesome safe space, space saver.
And then it has a little Q leather
clever.
Fancy.
So it looks like extra fancy.
Right,
So
like
when
a
it's
wallet.
like this, right? So it's like this on the table. Like that, people are like, "Wow!"
Yeah, even Doc was impressed. Like, okay, this impressed Doc.
I love it. I think that's a good call out. We've been saying on the last, I don't even know. I've been doing a ton of different streams talking through like different kinds of setups and studio spaces and what you need to be thinking about. And the most important one that keeps coming up over and over again is really like, don't trust that internet that is in a place you don't know. Like if you're not able to do a bunch of different tests with it, or think through getting a portable, you know, hotspot or something that you can have as a backup, consider Speedify. We're huge fans of Speedify. They've saved the day a bunch for us. But you know, having something there to, you know, just in case something goes wrong is really important. And I feel like that tends to be the biggest pain point when you're out of your space, is like, you know, you're in a hotel, lots of people using their Wi-Fi.
Yes.
And you know, so we know that Doc had the Nighthawk M1 and also the MiFi from, I think it was a Verizon MiFi, but thankfully the hotel internet was kind of like the best Wi-Fi ever.
Yeah, like we were worried about it, but it's like, right. And then Doc came over and Doc is like, actually, the Wi-Fi here is pretty good. And we're like, okay.
We did speed tests and like your internet connection is very fast. We're like, whoa, okay. And it let us stream for like five hours plus.
Yeah, and it was great. No problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
No problem.
And I mean, you have the added backup of, you know, tools like Ecamm make it so that you have a record. So if anything was to go wrong, you at least still have that recording. You could power through. You still make the, you know, the speakers feel really special. You're able to kind of give them that great experience and not, you know, have a video file that you could always upload later if something happened. But yeah, it was a good idea that it managed to work out brilliantly, that the internet just worked, but we had backups just in case.
Yes.
Yes,
we did.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. You have to have your backup, because, you know, if you don't use it, you don't use it. Great, but if you need it, it's there, and off you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just like the backup that we have. So we're there with all of the equipment, which is great to think about when having a portable setup, that you're able to move it quickly and you know all of your points, right? All of your points, like the cable management is great as you can get it. Because for us,
tape it down so no one trips
yes,
over any of that stuff.
Yes, exactly. Especially if you are in an event and your cables are out, you have to make sure that you take care of those cables.
Yeah.
But for us, we had to move unexpectedly, right?
On day two.
Day two, we had to move from one spot to the other. So for us to be able to get that set up and then just completely like take it down and put it back up again, it was great because of how we had it arranged on it. So that's really important, right? You never know what's gonna happen.
Exactly, because like if the cables were all tangled up, that would have been a pain to just untangle everything and transfer it over to another studio in less than 30 minutes.
For sure. When there's like another event going on and people are just looking at you like,
right, because there was a wedding going on.
Wedding came in the middle of all of it. And I think that's a really good point. When you're not in your space, and you know, and even with an event planner as awesome as Dan, who like knew where everything was going to be and planned it.
Right.
He wasn't in control of it either. And so being able to move quickly and still provide the same level of quality and still make everyone feel really special. You guys were awesome because there was a live streaming, like a video conference space, basically, that looked absolutely incredible. And Ana was like, how do we get it? And we were able to talk our way into that, or you guys were able to talk your way into that, which is just awesome. Thinking on your feet and then really knowing your gear, I'm sure is just huge. Being able to say like, okay, we can break this down and get this entire thing set up in half an hour. That comes from also really like using your equipment a lot and being really comfortable and familiar with it. A lot of like test and practicing.
And trusting the Wi-Fi, right? Because thank goodness in that case we had the Wi-Fi.
We had the Wi-Fi,
because the stream was going on while we were doing that.
Yeah,
that
we
entire
moved
change.
it. Yeah, we did
on
it
on the MacBook. The Wi-Fi was just running strong for us to like just move it over.
We just moved the set of the laptop so we couldn't close it, nothing, because the stream was live. We were just on a waiting screen, right? We were just like on a waiting screen and that's it. Yeah. But then on top of that, you have to be able to trust your team. You have to be able, at that point, when you're in an event, you have to have a strong team with you, a team that you trust, that is going to just, quick thinking as well, and just trust all of the decisions that are being made on the spot. And then a team that's creative as well, because Katie over here, right? We moved to the new spot and we're moving equipment and we're doing all the stuff. And then we're like, there's a glare over there. And Katie goes, well, let's move this over here. And we're like, oh, because we're not thinking about that at that moment. We're thinking about other things. So that's great to have.
Having a couple of extra sets of eyes, or even, these are really long days, and they're bound to be, long days if you're doing a larger event like this. And so having someone to like be there if you need to run to the washroom, be there to grab coffee, make sure the speaker finds, a place, having kind of a point person or a runner or someone that can help if you're on camera the whole time. And I think too, I want to point out before I forget it, is that one thing that I had never thought about or really considered was the idea of having a designed, like ready to go scene in your plan in Ecamm that says, we'll be right back, or music over it, because as you said, like you were still live and you were hustling and moving your entire setup. So having that ready to go without needing to be like, oh shoot, like I can't stop the broadcast, but I need to do all of these things, and it's just me, like having that screen ready to go in case something goes wrong, in case you need to be able to do something like that, and even just in your case, in between the different speakers as you were interviewing. But I think that screen is really important, and not one that many of us use on a regular basis just for like our shows or, video podcasts and things we're doing. So that was a good kind of design. You two as the design gurus is like a great addition for people that are doing this kind of thing to think about past just the gear, is like thinking through what your flow is and what you might need, and just making sure you have that in there, even if it's like sitting at the bottom so you can slide
right.
You don't have to make it on the go. And
and those things came out during the planning stages, which is a great thing. We're like, okay, we know that we're gonna have a time slot where we are not going to have anyone,
speakers,
right? And speakers. So we need to, what do we do? And then we're like, okay, we create an amazing playlist. We create a waiting screen, and off it goes. And that's. It
came in very handy, because like there was like a 1 hour block at one point where like there was nothing going on. So we went out to lunch and everything.
right. And we were able to leave it there, and it was great. And people were asking like, oh, what's the playlist and all of that.
Right, they're asking about the playlist.
The playlist, So it was great. And that's something else also, that say you needed to change the name or add a new screen, you can do it. You can right there with Ecamm, which is a great thing about the text overlays and being able to design inside of Ecamm. You could do that on the fly. You could key in, which we actually had to do. We had to key in a couple of stuff there.
Like it made you want to become like a preview mode pro.
Right. No,
on the fly.
For real, like Fuljens, and you were there, Katie. We needed to change something, and I'm like, Fuljens, go to preview mode, because I couldn't get myself to do it. And then Fuljens went and he's like, and you're like, Katie, come here. What do you think? And then Fuljens just did it. So you were awesome on preview mode. You were great.
Preview mode
Hopefully
it
we don't have to
definitely
touch it.
makes that environment much easier. Katie was asking about that earlier about testing out and playing with preview mode. If you were watching and you're like, I haven't tried preview mode and I can't quite wrap my head around it, it's a great thing to play with in the community. You are not alone. There's going to be other people in the group that also want to be able to play around and test with it. So I'm always happy to jump on and play with it. But it saves the day in these kinds of environments. So knowing you're at least feeling confident enough to try it will get you, if someone if someone was to say something and you were like, oh, I need to pull up that graphic to match that, being able to kind of go over and find that or pull that up as a producer, that's hugely helpful.
For sure.
Right.
For sure.
Right. And also too, in addition to preview mode is, just to take advantage of the text overlays in Ecamm, right? Because all of our lower thirds were all text overlays.
Which makes
and
them
there was a
editable
time
easily, right? You don't have to go back out and grab them.
right
And redesign it.
Yeah, like
Right.
on day one, we had a mishap, right, where we had somebody whose name was come up as Diana Gladney. It wasn't Diana Gladney, right? And then we were just, very nice and nonchalant, just edit, change the name, change the title. All right, done. We just played it off well,
Right. I
But
could not imagine.
Can you imagine if that was a keynote overlay?
No.
It
It would have been,
Yeah, you'd have to find the file, grab it, edit it, drag it back in. You'd have to make Diana wait. It would be awful.
It will have to be on post-processing. And post-processing after that, it's just, you're going to have to it wouldn't have been.
Yeah, so that was our best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Just
good.
scrolling through the questions here as I'm loving all of the comments. Dean wants to know why it's always Ana and Fuljens instead of Fuljens and Ana. Next time, Fuljens and Ana.
Because ladies first.
Because ladies first, because alphabetical order,
Yes.
all of those different questions. Dr. Elo is here. Hey, Dr. Elo is saying that live streaming is here to stay. Yeah.
Yes, Dr. E.
I think it's becoming more and more common, especially as we realize the potential of larger, more global audiences, especially for some of these events. People want to be able to have a virtual option, so through that. Jim, thank you so much for the super chat. Jim says that he's been using Ecamm for ages. He loves the product. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
So good to see you, and thanks so much for hanging out. Michael says he produced his first live event with Ecamm on location. Oh, awesome. It was great. No problems until the speaker changed the order that was the setup. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You changed it on the fly. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to be able, especially when you're on location, the pressure and the stress is already there because you want to look your best. You want everything to pull off. Typically it's a paid, experience for you. So you're being paid for it. It's your livelihood to some level. So you want to make sure that everything looks the best, but there's always something that's going to need to change.
Yeah.
There's always someone that says there's a wedding that comes in and you have to you have to pick everything up and move it. So yeah, knowing your plan inside and out and having that level of confidence in your plan allows you the ability to be flexible and on the go when something happens. Cause you're like, okay, here are the 3 different things that I could do to solve this really quickly. I'm going to go with this one and we're going to move to the next,
Yes,
thing. So,
that's exactly right.
yeah. I want to talk a little bit about audio because I'm still learning a lot about audio here.
Right. So am I.
Roadcaster Pro. We're all learning a lot about audio, and audio can be really challenging when you are out in a public space and there's a lot of background noise and, you need to do a lot of audio monitoring. As we said, we had those mics. It took us forever to get them open, to get the batteries.
Oh my gosh.
So have batteries.
That's a story.
Have batteries, or have a friend like Rob that has batteries ready to go for you when you're panicking.
And WD-40.
WD-40 in the trunk.
Yeah, have WD-40 ready to go in case it's fused shut and you can't open it.
Yes.
But you were doing audio monitoring. You were using the Rodecaster Pro. What does that look like if people are new to it? What are you plugging in where? How do those two things work together?
Right. So the Rodecaster Pro has 4 XLR, right? But we actually used 2 of them, right? Because Katie, you brought the Phoenix Pro wireless microphones that we now call the Ecamm mics, right?
Yeah.
And which is great because it's XLR. So we connected that to the Rodecaster Pro, right? So that was that was mic 1 and mic 2. Mic 1 and mic 2 XLR1, XLR2 went into the Phoenix Pro. And then we had an additional microphone, which is what Anna's using here, which is the ATR 2100X microphone. So we had 2 of those, and we ended up using one to bring on the guest. Right? And then for the ENN wrap-ups, we actually end up using all 4 mics. We used the 2 Phoenix Pros, and then we used the 2 ATR. Yeah. And Doc had a special, Doc microphone. So that was that. So that came out very handy. And we actually wanted to we're thinking about down scaling, maybe using the Zoom P4 in the future to just save space. But it's actually good that we brought the Rodecaster Pro because of all of its capabilities and noise cancellation and things of that nature. Because there was a fountain again, that's out of our control, right? There was this big pond and fountain over to our right,
and by this beautiful fountain,
right. So the Rodecaster Pro's noise gate came in handy, which was awesome.
Yeah,
but there's also the Zoom P4 would also be an alternative if someone doesn't have the Rodecaster Pro. And it's pretty well, we don't have it on the table right now, but it will be an alternative for it because you can add sound effects to it and everything. So but for this, it was great that we brought
the Rodecaster Pro for sure.
Yeah, and you were able then to do some audio monitoring as well. So you had your, headset in and were able to kind of listen to how things sounded, which then meant it was easier or faster to catch if someone was muted or if
muted.
Yes, and with the Rodecaster, there's some
exactly.
The Rodecaster has 4 1/4 inch, but we didn't have 1/4 inch, so we just used the 3.5. That's underneath the sound effects. There's a 3.5, but we use the headphone splitter. So we're using that right now actually. So we both have in-ear monitors, and we're using a headphone splitter, and we're just going into that 3.5 that's underneath the Rodecaster Pro at the very bottom, and that worked out very well for us.
And these with the noise cancellation are amazing.
For the Shure
125.
The Shure 215. The Shure 215 in-ear monitors.
Awesome. I mean, having that is huge, especially if it's a busier event. And I will say, the Phoenix handheld microphones, I'm amazed. We took those out to Social Media Marketing World as well in 2020, and they. Because you are holding them close to your mouth and because of the type of microphone that they are, they don't pick up a lot lot of noise. So it is nice.
Yeah, we were very impressed.
They did very well.
We were very impressed with them. In the price point, and it's even more.
The price point is
I was like, what? When you I'm like, Katie, what's the microphones? And then when you have the list, the part list, and I looked at it, I was like, what? That's it, and it comes with a receiver and everything. Those are really good mics. They are.
Yeah, they were great. And then it's funny the guys had just attached just plain mic flags that went around and with Ecamm stickers on them, and so they do. They look like they're professional newscaster awesome microphones, and they are eye catching. So I think I think it's neat. I think it's neat to really make the experience special, both for people that are at the event and are there, as well as for people that are watching at home and thinking through some of those set design tips. It goes a long way for sure. Michael's saying that his Rodecaster Pro came in handy when the audio, because the audio was controlled by the hotel was horrible. It can be really loud. There can be lots of weird there could be a wedding. There could be a fountain.
It came in handy.
All kinds of background noise. Awesome. So what were a couple of the things that you didn't plan for or didn't expect that happened during the event, and what will be in your arsenal for next time as a result? Is there anything that you've added since you did this event?
I think for me, one of the would be to have a contact at the hotel and just kind of figure it out what other events are going on, and are there outlets around, because we got set up in this beautiful space. It looked like a movie set, you guys. It looked like a movie set. We're like, yes, we're not set up here. But then when we went there, the outlet was not working. So we had to call the hotel manager, and they were great. They came right away and they tried finding a solution for us, but that outlet did not work. So we had an extension cord, so that's something that's really, really important. It was pretty long, so we went to another plug that was on the other side of our setup, but because we had the extension cord, it was there.
Yeah.
But it would have been nice to not have to worry about that, because that did take some time to figure out.
Yeah, and it just confirms everything that we brought. I was like, okay, we definitely need to bring this next time and not leave it behind, like the long extension cord.
Yeah, extension cords, batteries,
surge protectors,
gap tape, surge protectors.
Yeah.
Yes,
all the
WD-40.
things that you WD-40. Not think you need. Yeah, for sure. An extra, an extra backup set of microphones, or having more than one camera if you're able to swing it, just in case something happens. Extra batteries, charging, all those different things. Yeah, I think a point like having a couple of different points of contact are is important, and seeing if you can get in a little bit earlier as well. I know it was fast for you to kind of break down and move when you needed to, but how long did it take for you to initially set everything up when you got there, as you were kind of scoping out the space and thinking about it? Was
initially, believe it or not, Mr. Nerdy here, he got his phone and he timed it.
Yeah.
How long is it going to take us to set up? What was it?
Yeah. It was a little under 40 minutes. It was about like 30. Yeah. It was,
And then the second day,
it was a lot quicker.
because we
knew
lived,
we knew how
we left the booth was there, so we didn't have to set the booth up, and we just had to do the equipment again.
Yeah,
but it
wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. Yeah. And then with the transferring over to the new studio, right? Bonus points to having Ecamm Live community there with you, right? Because we had Mr. Camera Junkie, we had Sammy Cool, we had Miles and Mo, and
we had Katie. We had everyone just helped us out move all of that, because that would have taken way longer. And plus, we were actually asked to move next to a fountain, and we're like, I would like
closer to the fountain,
like right next to the fountain. And I was like, well, there's another event going on here tonight, so that means that once we move there, they're gonna move us again, and we cannot do this. And that's why then we had to think forward and ask for another spot that was away from everything that was happening, which was great. So having those connections and having those, scoping out the hotel for just possibilities is good. It's a good practice.
And they were very nice people.
They were
People
great.
there.
That's a good tip. Don't be afraid to don't be afraid to say no, and don't be afraid to ask for something different. I think that was a really good instance of just that the hotel staff don't understand that positioning you next to a fountain is not ideal for what you're trying to accomplish. And there was another option in that case. So it's not, it's a good idea to always just scope out the whole space just in case you might need to move or something might need to happen, and knowing what your options are so you can make those suggestions is important.
For sure. Yeah. Because at that time when you're pressed in time and you have to do something, there's no time to be like, oh my gosh, what if they say no? No, there's no time for that. There's time to just go for action.
It's okay if they say no.
Exactly. If they say no, then you move to another location. Right. Because you just have to make it work. Like,
that's true.
Go for it.
Yep.
Yeah. So don't be afraid to go around the hotel and
ask.
Yeah. Like I was even thinking, you know what? If we have to use our phones for something because we're not moving, we're going to use our phone. And then because you have a camera on the phone, and then the overlays were already there. So I'm just thinking about all these things at once. It's like,
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, awesome. I mean, just remembering it makes me smile. I think I'll be excited to get back out. But I will share, following this, I'll drop the links into the description of some of the broadcasts, the kind of end of day takeaways that we did from that event. So it'll be cool for everyone to be able to see some of the clips of it. Michael says, once you learn of 25 years of corporate events. Wow, Michael, that's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. Having someone's phone number goes a really long way. Finding those point of contacts, no matter what the event is, where it is, have a contact point for the person you're working with, the event producer, as well as someone on site, like a facilities person that can help you for when, you might need to ask additional questions or for help for something, or, you know.
We actually went back and personally thanked the facility manager the next morning for helping us out that day.
Yeah, because that was great, and they were great. And another thing is, knowing that you have to be moving things around and all this stuff, being comfortable, having comfortable shoes goes a long way. Having comfortable shoes goes a long way.
Especially standing up, because we stood up.
Yeah, we're standing up. So it's like, we're like, you know what? The shoes are not showing.
The shoes are not in the shot.
So not in the shot. Just go, because can you imagine having uncomfortable shoes and having to go back and forth, having to be standing? So these are things that even you might think that they're not important, but they are, because if you cannot sit down and you're wearing shoes, you're going to be uncomfortable the entire time, and that's going to transfer into your live streams and into everything else. That's right? True. You don't want to have to be barefooted.
Starting with the spiky high heels and ending the day barefoot and crying. Yeah, that would definitely not be good. I love it. Well, we are just about at the end of the hour. Is there anything else that you think would be really important for everyone watching to know? I don't see any other questions coming through. So is there any kind of final thoughts, things that you loved, or things that you want everyone to make sure to note if they're doing something similar?
Right. Just two quick things, right? So the camera setup came in very handy, because it was the Sigma 16mm lens on the Sony a6600, so it gave like a wide angle to have like us on screen with the guest, and then for that wide shot of like the entire Ecamm live community. So that worked out very well. And also in the description, like the lighting that we brought, right? So this is like, these are so portable. You know, $60 a panel on Amazon, and you don't need to keep them like plugged in if you want to. Like they hold a really good charge. So you know, this is lighting that we use, but we also had natural lighting there, which was awesome. And these didn't come into play like much until maybe like when it got darker. Right?
Yeah. So it's great until it gets dark out.
Right. And the light stand was only about $20 as well. So it's
for
really
a pair of
easy
two.
For a pair of two. Yeah. So that was really good. Also, it's really nice, and that light is beautiful. It produces very
soft.
nice. Yeah. It's really soft lighting. Especially for
I
us
see
ladies.
A couple of questions coming through. So Michael wants to know about repurposing the final product. That's a great question. In this case, did you guys do a lot? We didn't end up doing a lot of repurposing on our end from it, because really we did a blog post that included like the takeaways and things that we talked about in the videos, and then embedded those videos in. But we didn't, at least on the Ecamm side, cut up or edit any of those videos, because really it was more about the live experience and having people along for the ride in this case.
Right.
Yeah, because we were doing it behind a paywall, so we actually cannot. We don't own the content. People Video does. Do so. That's why we couldn't repurpose it.
Right.
However, that's a great tip, because when moving forward and doing all of these behind the scenes and things like that, that could be where we could do some repurposing for.
Right. For
sure. Knowing. It's a good point. Again, kind of really knowing what your contract with whoever you're working with says. Like, are you allowed to repurpose it?
Right.
If you're not, are you allowed to grab different extra content? Like, how do you kind of navigate that for what you're able to use for yourself versus what the event needs locked down or behind a paywall?
Right. And which was great, because like we were able to do some create stories and shorts for Instagram and
those
and YouTube.
were great.
So that was really awesome.
That was great. Yeah.
And also we were able to use the wrap ups, the streams that we did for the ENN wrap ups. We were able to use that for repurposing as well. So that's awesome.
Yeah, this is actually a really good point from Jim. So in this particular case, we were at a hotel, and so we didn't have kind of a lot of the added costs or logistics that come with being in like a convention center. It's part of a larger event. So Jim's point is totally valid. Like if you're at a conference center or like a huge place, typically they are like unionized groups, and there are a lot of additional sets of rules about who are the facilities people and what power or internet connections, etc. you may have paid for in advance. So all good to know all of that information, especially if you're not the event planner, if you're just hosting or running like one portion of it. So if you're doing the live stream from someone else's booth, just making sure that you don't ask for things that might end up costing or incurring a big additional cost, knowing that going in and knowing what those agreements are super important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So true.
Oh, awesome. I so appreciate you guys taking the time, being able to chat with us about this. I think it's neat seeing everyone's different setups and understanding, like what you guys are doing there versus how it would be different when you're on the go. So thank you for taking the time.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Yeah.
I love this.
And if you are watching and you haven't yet jumped into the community, as I said, when we first started, Ana and Fuljens and Ana, to a regular show for us called ENN, Ecamm Network News. They do that on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn every week, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern. We're also still finishing out a design challenge. So these two are design wizards here in Ecamm Live. So if you're sitting there and you're like, oh, this looks so cool and I don't know how to create all of these things, they can help you look amazing. So jump over into the community group. The link for that is in the description. If it's not, I'll go back and make sure to add it in. But follow along with that. It's a great way to kind of learn some pro tips and challenge yourself. You get a t-shirt if you play along.
Yes, this t-shirt. So you get this t-shirt.
Straight out of Ecamm.
Which was created inside of Ecamm. Yeah, and the challenge goes until the end of the month, November 30th. So you can still submit it and hashtag it. Make sure you hashtag it because that's how we find
Ecamm Design Challenge.
Ecamm Design Challenge. So yeah, play along and test and play. The group's a safe space for being able to post your videos and play around when no one's gonna make fun of you if you push the wrong button or don't have the right thing yet. We're all learning at a different pace, so certainly play along with that there. Thank you so much, Fuljens and Ana, for hanging out.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it seems like we woke up Doc at the last minute. Right?
We did. We woke up Doc at the last minute. Oh yeah, and Doc's reminding me that as always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell, and we will see you back at 2 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube. If you want to join us for our live demo, Doc will be walking through how you do this, if you're wondering how you do this. He'll be answering all of your questions and taking you through some of the coolest features here in Ecamm Live. So hopefully you'll join us then every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube. Thanks, Ana and Fuljens.
Yes, thank you. Bye, Katie. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.